Okay, was that a DWG file that you sent me? DWG, right, there you go. Okay, and what would you like to?
Well, we have to machine all 5 of those parts, but we can only machine one of them at a time, one 4x8 sheet at a time.
Okay. So what you could do here is, if you want to do one sheet at a time, you can add a work 0 for each of these sheets, and then you can program them. So in this case, looks like the part also needs to be rotated by 90 degrees, right? Because you have more travel on the Y compared to the X. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
They got to be rotated
by 90 degrees. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then we can basically do what is called, you can either stack them all on one on top of the other and put them in different layers if you want to make it, easier, or, if you're not really concerned about simulating them, what you could do is you can basically create what is called a work 0, and you can say for the first part, you want to place the work 0 over here, and then you can program a toolpath. You can introduce what is called a machining operation set, so you can group all the operations for this particular sheet into this folder. So I can program a 2-axis profiling operation, and let's say I want to pick these 2 geometries in here. I'm going to select 2 of these, grab the tool, specify a cutting parameter in here, cut on the outside. I'm just going to do a 0 depth cut right there, and then generate it. So we have 2 operations in here programmed for this one, right? So now let's say I want to program the next sheet in here. I can go ahead and insert a new work 0. And I can say I want to put the work 0 over to this corner right here. So that'll be the 0, 0, 0 that you're going to be setting it up. And I can do a copy and the paste of this operation set. I can call this as my sheet 1. And then I can rename this to be sheet number 2. And I can program operations for these sheets in here. So you'll now notice that we have a sheet 1. It uses the origin right here. And then the next sheet, you have a new work 0 set, and you program it over here. So when I post this, these operations are going to be, putting the 0, 0, 0 based on the work 0 that's right above it. So that's how you can program multiple sheets if you want to do it in.
Can you post each sheet individually?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just grab a mop set, right-click, and do a post, and that'll post just the first sheet.
Okay.
I have posted sheet 2, sheet 1. So you can basically establish your work 0 and then create a bunch of operations for each sheet. Then you can group them into a folder like a machining operation set. You also have features where you can do suppress and unsuppress. So for example, you only want to post the sheet 2 and not sheet 1. I can select these 2 in here, and I can do a suppress on it. So I can suppress those 2, and now I can just select those and do a post. It's only going to post sheet number 2. So you also have the ability to do a suppress and unsuppress of machining operations. Or the other option is easiest way is just to select the operation set that you group together for sheet 2 and then post them out. Do you have any other questions?
Well, yes, I do. Take the part that you picked the first one. Well, the 2 parts that you picked. All right, they've got similar operations on them, but the shapes are completely different. All right. Mm-hmm. So if we did a save to, if we did the first one complete and saved it to the knowledge base, could we use that same knowledge base to cut the second one?
Absolutely. You can set up rules for it. So here's how I know. Let's say I just profile these 2 shapes in here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can add more operations. You can do engraving or whatever operations needs to be done. You can program it in here, and then you can save that to a knowledge base. And then, one of the ways I could do is hide the rest, and then when you load the knowledge base, you can apply rules for it, and it'll even automatically do a selection of geometries, not just the workflow, but you can also automate it to select the geometries for you automatically. So that's the
How
power
does it select the geometries automatically?
Okay, we talked about how you can specify rules for a knowledge base in here. Once you load a knowledge base, you can assign rules to it. You could say for the profiling, select either geometries based on geometry type or layers or colors. You can apply those. And if you want to only select objects from a certain sheet, if each of these geometries are on a certain layer, you can do that. Or if you want to pick based on the color, looks like you maintain based on the color here. What I could do is if you want to program sheet 2, I can go ahead and basically select everything but the sheet 2. I can hide the rest. So I can go ahead and say I can hide it, or I can lock the rest of it here. I can just say this is the part of sheet 2. I can invert everything else and just lock it. And then I can load the knowledge base. It'll automatically select the objects that are active to be selected. Or I can put them in different layers and hide the rest of the layers. So just to make it easier for the geometry selection.
Okay.
Or you could still manually go ahead and select it if you want to do manual selection from a knowledge base.
That's good. That's basically what we want to see and want to do.
Okay.
Do you
If you have any other questions on the demo, I can help you with.
You've shown us the most powerful program we've looked at thus far. As far as the time saving and the multi-grouping, the workflows, really impressive.
Thank you.
And like Al said, this is exactly what we do.
Okay. Well, so I'm sure RhinoCam will help you make your workflow programming much more easier, much more faster, and you probably would be able to program more parts in a much lesser amount of time than what you probably have been doing. So it gives you all of these tools, flexibility, and capabilities. So you can use for programming for a wide range of applications as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.